No sound. John and Jessica said no sound. That's how we start, right? We just jump in and we start, and the sound was off, but I touched the button and it came on. So my apologies for going ahead and starting off with the mic off. Well, I want to welcome you guys. My name is Jordan, and I'm welcoming you to our live stream of our podcast that we do here with JM Leadership Group. There's several different ways that we provide training and support and everything else for the leadership community. And one way is a podcast. And before last year, we would do the podcast, which is called Leader Seeds. And we do that in just an audio form through about 9 different platforms. And we thought we'd level it up this time by actually going ahead and putting a video element to it. So we're testing it out. You get a chance to be part of that. You get a chance to also even contribute on the live recording. So I'm gonna propose a few questions out there, and if you're able to kind of chime in with the chat, we'd love to hear what you have to say about today's topic. I'll introduce that really quickly, and also I'm gonna go ahead and cover a little bit things about it. So let me tell you first of all what Leader Seeds is all about. Okay, the best way to do it is I'll play an intro video that we made for the podcast. Just look, it'll tell you some quick things about it, and then I'll come right back. But I'll tell you first off about the topic we'll cover today. So the topic today is basically what we're talking about is how do you keep the fire burning and not get burnt out? Right? We know either extreme isn't good. We don't want to just lay back and do nothing, but at the same time, we don't want to do everything and fall apart. Right? So how do we find that? Right? How do we find that part in there? And this talks about maybe we're talking about achieving goals today, because achieving goals can be whatever goals is for you. You know, it might be a financial goal, it might be a work goal, it might be a spiritual goal, right? But what do you have your eyes set on that you're moving towards, right? So think about that, and then we'll also cover specifically the topic on how do you keep the fire burning and not burn out, right? So go ahead. I'm gonna pull in the video really quickly to get started. Hey, I see Miguel, my brother Miguel. Thanks for being here. Proud of you, man. Thanks for listening in. Love to hear your insight and your wisdom on this topic. John, Jessica, I see you guys chiming in. So I get a chance to see the chat. So please, this is awesome. This is actually more exciting even for myself because I get a chance to kind of have everybody kind of collab in and talk on this subject here. I got some key points I'll cover, but I'd love to have what you have to say. So let's go ahead. I'm going to play a quick introduction video. That video shows a little bit about what Leader Seeds is about, and then I'll come right back in. So check this out. Let me know what you think about it. Hey friends, welcome to our Leader Seeds podcast. My name is Jordan and I'll be your host here. I'd like to tell you what you can expect here if you decide to subscribe with us. We rise to deliver specific conversations that give you results that you can use today, because it's all about healthy and sustainable leadership, and it starts with daily seeds, because when those seeds are planted in the right season, that's when the harvest is abundant. So as things are moving and connecting in your world, here our episodes will strive to give you tips, tools, and training to see things differently, a fresh view. Because the work that you do today is important, and we want to be there to celebrate the success with you along the way. So from sunrise to sundown, it's about living a life that makes a difference. And if the winning combination of servanthood, leadership, and communication sound great to you, we think you'll love it here. So go ahead, subscribe, like, and share, and check us out with today's episode. Let's get it started. And that's our introduction. That's telling you a little bit about what Leader Seeds podcast is specifically about. As you heard in there, we're all about leadership, communication, and servanthood. And if those things are important or interesting to you, I think you'll like the conversations we have here, because everything we're talking about is not just leadership at work, right? When we think leadership, we always think leadership with the assignment, but there's a leadership in the home that's very important, right? I know you agree. So there's a leadership in the home. There's a leadership in your own life, our own self-leadership. There's a leadership in our disciplines that we move forward in, right? So leadership doesn't always just go to work, right? Yes, there is a place for it at work, but the thing is, we can actually take that skill set that we learn in leadership, and it can bless every area of our life. We can take the skill set of communication, right? We can be a great communicator at work, but what happens at home? What happens with our friends? What happens in our community? What happens? How do we communicate with ourselves? right? Oh, right. So you see how even communication can really bless every area of your life, and also servanthood is really the positioning of our heart when we approach these things, right? When we strive for great things, and we strive for big stuff, but at the same time we have the position of our heart as a servant, as a place to serve and contribute, right? So leadership, communication, and servanthood is kind of the maybe the pillars of what we'll talk about in leader seeds. And leader seeds, what does seeds have to do with this, Jordan? Well, seeds are all about when we hear a lot of times about maybe leadership, whether it's in work and you see people reach a certain part of success or they reach a certain part of growth, right? And we see the fruit. You see, testimonies are more about the fruit, right? You see how people have overcome and we see the fruit of it. We see the growth. But what we need, I don't know about you, but when I'm looking for stuff, what I need is a seed. I don't need the fruit right now. The seed will lead me to the fruit, but I need to know what is the seed that I can get today? What is the applicable, what can I apply today that's a seed form, right? So we want to always be seeking the seed that leads to the fruit, right? So whatever it is, think about, like I said, this is a whole life perspective when we talk about leader seeds. And most importantly, we want these seeds to be healthy, right? We want to have healthy seeds that we plant because we don't want to have rotten fruit. What does rotten fruit look like? Well, that could look like burnout. That could look like when we're, growing in one part of our life, but another part is collapsing. That could look like external success, but internal suffering, right? We don't want that. We want to make sure that we're working on the inner work first, that we're starting with a solid foundation, and that all starts with looking at what is the leader seeds, not the leader fruit, right? So very important perspective shift. And if you have any questions on that, I'd love to see your feedback in the chat and let me know if that makes any sense or you resonate with that or if you have any questions with that. But that's the focus of Leader Seeds podcast and what we'll talk about here. Today, we're going to take just about 20 to 30 minutes. There'll be times when we do this in an interview style and we have some people to interview in the next coming months. But those interviews will be longer because there's just more conversation and dialogue. Today, it's just me, right? But you get a chance to kind of hear a little bit about the podcast and what we're looking forward to come to, and to specifically on the topic of how to keep the fire burning but not get burnt out, right? So we'll talk about that again. Let me check the chat to see if anybody's in there, if I'm missing anything. Like I said, this is the first time that we're going live on so many platforms. I'm pretty excited. But okay, awesome. So we're good to go. Mic is on. Let's go ahead and move into this topic that we're talking about. How do you keep the fire burning but not get burnt out, right? So when you're thinking about it, this. Let me tell you a little bit about backstory. A little backstory about it. There's a quote that's said out there, and you might have heard it, you might have not. But the quote is basically, an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. So think about that. An ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. So let's pause and let's think. Obviously, a pound is worth more than an ounce. That's basic, right? So how can we say an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure? You see, worth has to do where we put value in. So we have to put more value in prevention than in the cure. Like, how do we find, and how does that relate to burnout? Okay, stay with me. Because burnout is almost, in a sense, approach like, hey, when we crash the car, then we'll fix it. Cool. Okay. Yes, we'll do that. But that shouldn't be our only focus. Like, what if, let's just say, what if that wasn't our only focus? Like, to wait till we crash the car and then we'll fix the car, right? How many of you has drove around in your car when you know the tire was low, the light came on, and you still drove the car until the tire was flat? Raise your hand. I've done it. Maybe I'm not doing it right now because when I prepare these, you got to do it, right? So I'm prompted to not. So I checked my car before today. But how many of you, honestly, right? Think about it. How many of you drive the car and you see the tire that's showing an indicator that you need to fill the tire, but you drive it a little bit more, and then when it's flat, then you think, now let's fix the car, right? Well, that's that same analogy. Think about that. How many times We had an indicator. Something was telling us. The dashboard light came on and it said, "Hey, your tire might be a little low." But we kept going and we kept pushing, right? All the way till it's flat, and then we freak out. Well, that's kind of the same thought process when we're thinking about when we approach like burnout, when we hit the wall and then we fix it, right? So though that's good, we want to be grateful for times like that when we can go ahead and do that and learn from it. But when we learn from that, if we keep hitting the wall or we keep having a tire flat and we don't kind of learn from it, I want to challenge us in a sense, if we're listening in, that what if when if that ever happened to you, what if we didn't? What if we took the principle or the quote of an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure? What if we took that and applied it here and we said, how can I prevent myself from hitting that wall? How can I prevent myself from having a flat tire, right? And I want to propose to you, as I kind of looked at it, I prayed through it and I prepared for it and I kind of thought, I put things together and I just thought, what if it all starts on the foundation, right? What if our foundational methods was healthy? What if we fought for healthy foundation in our leadership? What if we fought for it? And I specifically use the word fight for, because sometimes having a boundary is misunderstood, right? Sometimes it can also associate with like maybe we won't please other people because we have a boundary to keep ourselves healthy, right? So it could be misunderstood, right? Like we want to say no to some things because we have a boundary to stay healthy, right? But we understand it's not our heart to say no. It's that we are setting a healthy foundation because we are learning rather than hitting the wall. And then after you hit the wall, then we want to fix it, right? So maybe we want to stop hitting the wall. Maybe we want to say, how can I work on building a healthy foundation first and foremost? And then I can serve from there. I can operate from there. A lot of that has to do with the inner work that we do. But today I want to talk specifically about one thing that came to mind, and I've been talking about it, an awesome coaching group that I do in the mornings. And collectively, we've been sharing it all week long. And I thought it'd be a perfect topic of what we talk about in today's recording. And we share it with all of you here as you're listening in. Let's go ahead and check the chat really quickly. I want to take a pause. I want to take a drink of water and check the chat right before I go right on there. Let's see, we got, can't hear you, John. There you go, pivot. Yeah, I pivoted when the mic wasn't working, right? I love that, John. Good job picking up on that, man. Miguel, proud of you right there. Awesome. Okay. So I don't have any other chats that I'm missing here. Use the chat feature to let us know how things are going and everything else. Even just say hi in the chat. That'll be cool, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or on Twitter, on Periscope. I'm not even sure how you watch this on Twitter, to tell you the truth. But hey, we're all learning, right? I seen the option was there. I clicked it, and we figured just put it on that platform. So one thing that we kind of looked at here, let me see here. Let me look on my notes. I have a few things. Okay, so one thing that we'll do is, let me show you this. The word that you see there is pace. Whether if you're listening to this on our podcast platforms, which is Spotify, iTunes, Google Cast, and about 9 different ones there, I want to encourage you to kind of just write some notes, because we don't have, it's an audio platform, so you don't have the video and you can't see the notes that we're sharing. But if you're listening there, just write down the word PACE, P-A-C-E, P-A-C-E. We'll talk about that word. We'll use that word in a sense, and I'll explain more on how we're just remembering that word and the key points in that word to help us keep the fire burning but not burn out. Right? So I'll use that word. I'm going to keep it on the screen. If you're watching us on the video format here, you see it on the screen that we have. P-A-C-E. And for those of you that are familiar with it, I know some of you are here. If you're able to, maybe put in the chat what the P stands for. And as I start to explain what PACE is all about. So when we think about PACE, we're thinking about, who's familiar with like an Indy 500 car race, right? You're familiar with it. They go ahead in these high-level machines, these machines that can go extremely fast, and they're also operated by an extremely skilled driver, right? An extremely skilled driver. So we have a machine, excuse me, we have a machine that's a high-performance machine. Nothing's wrong with the machine. Then you have a driver that is actually going out there and highly skilled, been training for a long time, and you put that together. You think, wow, like how do they do this, right? how do they win the race? Do they go faster in the race? Is it the fastest car that goes in the race? Think about it. Is it the fastest driver that wins the race? Maybe let me check in the chat. John said personal. Thank you, John. We're going to cover that. That's your P if you're taking notes. P stands for personal. I'm going to explain on that. But think about here. Maybe answer in the chat or let me know what do you think here. Who wins the race? Is it the fastest car or the fastest driver? Because sometimes we think it is. But think about it. Who wins the race? You see, what I've learned is that the fastest car, the fastest driver, because there's turns on the track, I'm going to pause. There's turns in our life. Let's go back. Because there's turns on the track, it's not a straight shot. It's not just the fastest driver, because the fastest driver, the fastest car, will quickly go in the wall if they don't know how to pace, if they don't know how to downshift, if they don't know how to come into the turn properly and come out of the turn properly, right? If they don't know how to use the tools in the machine properly to enter a turn and to exit a turn. Let's think about life. Let's go, we're connecting it. It's how we come into pivots in our life and how we exit a pivot in our life, right? What is a pivot, Jordan? Think about these sudden changes in your life that just happen. We all have them, right? We lose a family member, we get married, we start having kids go off into college, our work environment completely changes. Who had that this year in COVID, right? In the whole pandemic, right? Maybe everybody, right? Your work environment completely changed. What do you do when you have sudden changes in your life? Kind of like the driver on the track and you have these turns. You was preparing and you was driving forward and you was moving, but now you have a turn. And how do you enter that turn and how do you exit that turn? You see, the fastest car then is the fastest one in the wall. So it's not necessarily the fastest car or the fastest driver. And sometimes we think of that in life. We think in life is just go faster, 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 go more and more and more. And we hit a wall and we're like, not that, right? But it's also not the slowest. It's also not the one that's sitting still in the pit crew. It's also not the one that's over strategizing and thinking I want to get it perfect. It's not down. It's the one that's on the track, that's moving, that's showing up, but following a pace, right? There's a pace and how it starts the whole race. With another car, you know this, there's a pace car. They don't start these Indy 500 races from a dead stop and just go top speed. And sometimes we do that in life. Sometimes we think from a dead stop, we can just take off in life and kind of have this, whatever you're pursuing, right? Say in January, you want a new goals and you want to go from a dead stop and just top speed. But if you look at the idea, the analogy, what we're using today with Indy 500, they don't do that. They start with the pace car, slowly picking up the pace. Right? One lap after another, they get faster and faster, and the pace starts to increase with each lap, right? So personal is all about, the P in pace is all about personal. They know their personal strength. They know their personal skill set. Some drivers are better coming into the turn. Some are better coming out. Some are better in top speed. Some have different skills that they can do with their turning. Some know different. So they know themselves personally, and they know what they're operating. They know their machine. They know the tool. They know their life. Look at the car as the season you're in right now, right? You know that personally. So it's important to know your strengths and yours and how you was gifted personally. We want to say don't take things personally, and we don't want to. But with your goals, you want to take that personally, and that's your goals. Why you want to take it personally is because if we don't, we actually are looking at a compass externally. We're looking at other people and we're judging our goals on other people's success or failure. And that's not good. If we're judging our goals and our life on other people's success, we always feel defeated. We always feel less than. If we're judging our goals and our calling or your pursuits to other people's failure, then we're kind of lifting ourselves up on other people's bad times, and that's not good either, right? So we want to make sure that what we're doing has an internal compass. Like, what is it for you? What is your core values, right? How are you designed? How are you approaching this, right? Because the calling, the goals, whatever you put on your heart, and you're pursuing, right, they have to be in line with your core values. So that's important there. The next thing is alignment. Alignment is actually being in a line. When look at the whole car thing. When you see the light come on, you want to be aligned and follow that light. So you want to know that, hey, when you're going ahead and you're pursuing your goal, when you're moving forward, right, know who you are and stay in line with that. Keep your alignment with your goals perfectly aligned as you're moving forward. It's going to actually get a little bit off course once in a while. Once in a while it does. But the drivers that are going on the Indy 500, they understand how to put it right back. Hey, just merge a little bit. If we're always keeping a sense of alignment, our shifts are subtle. Let's see my hand for a second here. If we're using this and we're kind of going in life and we go a little bit off course, if we're always every day trying to be intentional with our alignment, when we check it, we're a little off course. Look, it's just a subtle change and a subtle change and a subtle change. Very subtle. If you're listening on the audio, what I'm doing is just picture my hand as straight. And what you're doing, if you veer off a little bit, if you're always watching it, if you're always cautious of alignment, that's why it's important in the acronym here. If you're looking for alignment, your pivots are subtle. But if we're not, what happens? If I'm not watching, oh, I got to do a drastic change and come right back on. And then I got to do another drastic change and come back on, right? So we want to make sure that we're always looking, how am I aligned with my core values, your strengths, your gifting, your calling, and how are you aligned with what you're called and what you're pursuing, right? There has to be an alignment in there, right? You'll never achieve a goal that someone else has for you. You're not fit for a calling that is somebody else's calling. It's just not. It's going to feel weird, right? Some people need the full armor. Some people can show up with a sling and a rock, right? Don't need the full armor. It's just different. So that alignment, right? That alignment is so key. The more you seek the alignment, the subtle the shifts happen. It's the subtle. And now C, what's the next one right now? Thanks, John, for putting alignment in there. C, if you're familiar with the teaching that we have here and everything else, share in the chat if you can what C is, because we know P is personal. We know A is alignment. Now C, what is the C in the acronym we're using today called PACE? And the topic, I'll remind you, if you're just joining us here, the topic we're talking about is how do you keep the fire burning but not get burnt out, right? How do you do that? It's a marathon mentality. But when you're thinking about a marathon, think about like the Indy 500 when they're going 500 laps. It's a pace that they set. It's not about just faster cars. It's a pace. So awesome. So I got John and Jessica there. Thank you both for putting that in. C is challenge. That's what it is. So if you're taking notes, write down P was personal, A is alignment, C is challenge. When the pace car is starting, it starts off slowly. And what happens? The next lap, it gets a little more quicker. And it gets a little quicker. And it's picking up its pace to kind of get all the racers up to a race speed. And what happens after that? The pace car drifts off and the race is off. So think about it in your life, right? When you're going ahead, if you're constantly trying to get better, if you're constantly trying to improve, if you're constantly trying to serve greater, you're constantly picking up the pace. And how you do that is you challenge yourself. Just challenge yourself a little. We don't want to get stuck and be stagnant, right? Because it's easy to be stuck because there is great comfort in being stuck, right? We don't want to put the cruise control on there and kick back and be like, I wonder why things aren't working. This is so comfortable and easy. I wonder why stuff isn't working out. Because we have the cruise control set on. That don't know in there. No, we want to challenge ourselves. So C is not cruise control. C is challenge. We want to challenge yourself. So whatever it is, if you have a health goal, challenge yourself a little bit more. When you notice that you're getting a little bit comfortable, you want to challenge yourself. Here's something if you're listening in that might kind of open your eyes a little bit. I know when I first heard it, it really caught my attention. You know that success can actually lead to people being stagnant more than anything else. Think about that. Because there's a part of success, there's a part of achieving a goal that you feel like you can and get comfortable. And most drive is lost when people achieve their goal. So people that are constantly growing, that's why the goal is growth. The goal is not the goal. The goal is growing, right? Because if we're always growing, when you hit that part of when we hit that success and that mark, if our goal was to reach that, then all drive kind of done, and we're like, oh, that's it, done. Hey, done, right? No, we want to make sure that we're continuing to grow. So success, in a sense, can actually have a sense to kind of hit the, oh, we're done. That's it. The mission is done. No, no, no. It's about looking at that time. And yes, you celebrate it. Awesome. We celebrate it. We enjoy it. We receive it. And we always remember, if our focus is on growing, then the goal always grows. You ever had that where you reach a point and then when you get there, it's like it's further, right? I'll tell you a quick story. And when I was 18 years old, me and a bunch of my buddies went ahead and we went and we climbed the stairway to heaven. Now, don't get all crazy with me about if it was legal or not. We went and we did what teenagers do, and we climbed the stairway to heaven. I won't get in details there. But when we went to go climb it, if you're listening in Hawaii, there's this really big hike with 1,000-something stairs. But if you just Google it, you'll see some really epic shots about it. So we went to do it. But this is something that was so awesome with it. From the base, when you look up, you see your mark that you're going for. And you see that goal, and you start going for it. And then when you get there, guess what happens? A whole new ring of stairs appears. Like, I couldn't see those stairs at the base, right? And you're excited, but I'm like, oh, there's more. I thought that was the top. There's more. I gotta keep going. So we go ahead, we take a moment on that plateau, we pause, we regroup, and we set forth again. And that happened again. I saw next top, we get there, and what happened? Only when I got there, it's like then the next level was revealed. So life will have that sense. If you're just looking at it on just a destination perspective, what happens when we get there is that we hit the cruise control button, we stop, nothing happens, and we stay stuck, right? We stay stuck in that part of our life. But we want to make sure we're constantly challenging ourselves to grow, right? Just a little challenge, just picking up a little bit more. Let me check the chat to see a little bit here. Thank you, Jess and John, for challenge. John said my cruise control was stuck for a while. Sometimes the button is stuck, right? Sometimes we gotta like check them, like, hey, how come the button is stuck on there? But now we know with pace, personal, alignment, challenge, and then the last one, E. Let me open that up and share. And those of you in the chat for if you can put the E in there, thank you for contributing to the chat. If you can put the E in there, what E stands for, we have P, personal, A, alignment, C, challenge, and E kind of wraps it up. E is we wanna be excited, right? Why we want to be excited is that you want to attach a good emotion, a spirit of joy to what you're doing and pursuing, because it's easy to be discouraged. It's easy to be discouraged. It's easy to be misunderstood when you're pursuing something great, right? Other people can speak ill into that. So we want to keep a spirit of joy when we're moving forward, because your body might be uncomfortable. Your mind might be uncomfortable. We are growing, so there's things that's pushing against us, right? But when you keep a spirit of joy, when you keep an excitement in it, stay excited, stay engaged, stay really connected and focused on what you're moving forward in. When you look at the same idea we're talking about with the racers, with the NASCAR drivers at Indy 500, when they come off, maybe it looks like they're not moving a lot. When you come off, if you check their pulses, their body is moving. Like their hands, some of them are kind of shaking like this. They're excited to do this. Now, you might think they're sitting down. Why is there? Because they're excited for the challenge that they have. They're pushing themselves. They're excited to do it. What others might be afraid of, actually they're excited for. So that's the same thing with life. We think about it. We once might be like a little bit nervous to pursue or try new things, right? But when we start to attach a spirit of joy or an excitement to it, what happens is that we become excited to enter the pace, right? We're not nervous about it. Everyone in the stands that's watching the race is a little bit more nervous to be in the driver's seat. But when you're in the driver's seat of your life, never ever be on the sidelines for your life. When you're actually going ahead and doing and in the driver's seat to do it, You want to be excited for it, because if you're nervous, we crash. And what we're talking about today is how to keep the fire burning and not burn out. So that's it. PACE. Set the pace. Use this acronym to kind of go ahead and keep the fire burning, continue to challenge yourself, stay connected to our core values, but don't burn out, because we have to stay aligned, right? We don't want to crash. We want to stay aligned and approach it in a sense like a leader seed, by knowing that when we set this foundation and we say no to stuff, right? If it's not in alignment, we say no to it. All right? If it doesn't challenge us, we say nah. And don't think challenge is just more. It's challenging to rest. How many of you have a challenge? Let me check the chat. How many of you have a challenge to take the weekend off when everyone says we have an assignment to do? It's challenging. Raise your hand. I'm raising my hand. That's challenging. Right? So, you see, don't take challenge as a sense of challenge is more. Challenge is we fight against what makes us comfortable, right? It's comfortable sometimes to be more there, show up for other people, and run myself to burnout. But I want to challenge myself to rest. Sometimes I have to challenge myself to take the time off and rest. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. You are just as worthy as you are when you're performing well and when you're resting well, because your worth is not dependent on you. Right? Right? You just show up and you stay aligned. That's it. I'm looking at the time right now, and we're about that time for our recording, our first recording here with Leader Seeds Podcast. I want to thank you for spending the time with us here as we went forward and as we spent some time talking about this really important topic. And what's really passionate for me is really kind of keep researching and discovering these leader seeds. So I want to open this up, that if you know anybody that comes to mind that you think would be really awesome to have this conversation with, I want to ask that you go ahead and you email it to me. There's my email. So send it to this email. It's jordan@jmleadershipgroup.com, and just let me know. And then what I'll do is I'll reach out to the person, let them know that you highly recommended them, and we'll start a conversation and see if they're interested to have a conversation about this, because I'm trying to fill up the calendar to have interviews here. And then that way we can have more people contribute, and then we can have more awesome discussions on this topic with Leader Seeds. So if anybody comes to mind, go ahead and email me that name. And if you're thinking about, if you're interested, I want to invite you too. If you're interested to kind of have a conversation, I'd love to talk with you. Just go ahead and email me at Jordan, JORDAN, at jmleadershipgroup.com. That's it. JORDAN at jmleadershipgroup.com. We'll try to get these out more consistently. There's a little bit of editing and stuff with the live, but stay connected with us on our Instagram. Instagram is at jmleadershipgroup. Just go ahead and connect with us there. You'll see daily posts that we do every single day there to kind of help everybody have some tips, tools, and training for healthy and sustainable leadership methods. You'll find that there on our Instagram page. Connect with us on Facebook and just continue to contribute to here, and let me know here too, how was this? How was the video element here? Is this something you'd say we should continue, or maybe something that you don't feel maybe is the right time? I won't get offended. I just want to hear what you have, because ultimately the goal with JM Leadership Group is to serve the leadership community with whatever we can do to help with real help and real support. So let us know in the chat, is this something that we should continue with the video part of it, or maybe not, and we'll do it later. We'll continue to do the audio programs, because what I've learned last year is that the podcast actually reached over 7 countries, and it was downloaded, I think, over 600 times, which blows my mind. It's kind of like, wow. So to see what's happening behind it, if you're listening in, I want to thank you for being a longtime supporter and listening into it. If this is the first time, I want to invite you back. If you found some value in here, please go ahead and join us again, and just listen to all the other episodes that we had, and stay connected with us as we continue to pursue the great things with healthy leadership. With that being said, guys, I'll sign off for today, and we're going to close on this first ever live recording. Let's see here. I want to check the chat before I sign off. I'll take off the email there, and that is it. I'm going to play the video once again to close out. But with that being said, thanks, guys. Take care. Have a great one, and always pursue great, healthy leadership in your life. Take care.